Have you ever wondered why some business people are more successful than others? Welcome to the Mentor List, a source of sound advice with your host, David Lewis. The Mentor List specialises in interviews with top business minds. Listen to their stories, list their habits, and most importantly, gather their advice for your career. This is the Mentor List.
Hi, welcome to today's show. This is the 13th time I have recorded this small introduction. For some reason, I can't seem to pronounce Richard Bowles' name properly, although I just did, so this is going to be the winning intro for the week. So Richard is known for running some of the world's longest mountain trails. So have a picture this. Think Forrest Gump meets Bear Grylls. Mash those two guys together and you've got Richard Bowles. So he's run 1,000 odd kilometres in Israel, 1,200 in South Australia, which is pretty much one side to the other side, 3,000 kilometres in New Zealand, and get this 5,000 kilometres. Well, I shouldn't round it down because there's probably another 6 marathons there worth of kilometres. So 5,330 kilometres, which was from central Victoria all the way to the top of Australia. So, I mean, that is a massive distance. It takes me 10 hours to drive, 1,000 kilometres, and that's sort of sitting at 100 Ks. And this is it's huge distance. So just throw in there that he's run around an exploding volcano in Sumatra, just, why not, for the hell of it. So, yeah, we've got a serious running man on our hands today, and he actually labels himself the Beyonce of running. So, yeah, not quite the stick figure that, you might have in your mind. And he's a very funny guy, and the interview starts with me sort of wrongly introducing him or wrongly pronouncing his name, and he doesn't let me off the hook, and it just sort of takes off from there. So hope you enjoy the show. All right, Richard Bowles, welcome to the Mentor List.
Richard Bowles, we just had this conversation, Dave, about the word bowels.
I thought it was,
and it's Bowles, B-O-W-L-E-S, much like Camilla Parker Bowles, but we're not related because that could be just as bad as pronouncing it in Bowles.
I even
mentioned, let's say this to the listeners, that Bowles is the worst thing I can be called for as a surname, particularly when you're in a doctor's waiting room and they come out and say, Mr. Bowles. And we were saying how it sounds like they're shouting out what the problem is. So like Mr. Cough, Mr. Flu, Mr. Bowles.
So off to a good start. Bowles.
Bowles, B-O-W-L-E-S.
I even wrote Bowles phonetically because I was trying to get the microphone.
So hard.
Okay. Bowles. Richard Bowles. So we've got Richard Bowles on the show. So it's a first for the Mentor List. We haven't had a professional athlete or an individual that's made a career out of playing in it. Well, what sort of field do you want?
Professional athlete.
Professional athlete.
I like that. Yeah, I'll take that.
But
what am I? My claim to fame is that I run mountain ranges that span entire nations.
Got it.
So that's from 1,000 Ks at a time up to 5,500 Ks. And I guess you can call that ultra marathon running if you like. I kind of call it adventure running because I'm out there in the wilderness running these things solo, right. Carrying everything on my back. And I'm running upwards of 85 Ks a day for sometimes months at a time. So that's kind of what I do,
So you just sort of slipped that in there. So 5,500 kilometres is...
Yeah, I said that like it was so normal, didn't I?
I'm just trying to hang on, was that...
Yeah, so the shortest trail I've ran is 1,009 kilometres. In fact, I did another interview recently where the guy said, does the 9 matter? I said, mate, you run 1,000 kilometres, 9 is a big deal.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't even run 9 as it is now.
Yeah.
So 5,500 Ks, so this is what? Up to Sydney, back to Melbourne.
No, they're all trails, David. They're all these mountain trails. So the 5,500 was a trail called the Bicentennial National Trail, and it's here in Australia. And it starts in Healesville in Victoria, and finishes in Cooktown in far north Queensland. So it's in fact the length of the Great Dividing Range.
So you basically run from the bottom of Victoria, the Yarra Valley, up to
and just keep going. Yeah,
Cooktown in Queensland. Far out.
Yeah. It's a long way.
I'm I'm just trying to. Wow. Okay. So
No, it's a long way. Look, it used to be called the National Horse Trail because I think it was Oren Williams actually tried to establish a stock route. So it's actually made up of a bunch of different stock routes.
yeah.
So it's all across the high country of Victoria, which is probably the toughest part of the whole thing. And then it's obviously just through the rolling hills, the back of Queensland, essentially.
So how are you so obviously there's a bit of planning goes into this. Do you want to talk through? I mean,
Logistics.
you don't just wake up one day and
Wake up. Yeah, just woke up one day. I'm this guy. I just wanted to do this. It was like, the thing is, it was pretty much like that. I came to Australia from England, from Leicester, which I'm actually proud to say I'm from now because if you follow the soccer, Premiership champions.
Right.
I came here, wow, it must have been almost 16 years ago.
Okay.
That's why I've got this kind of strange accent that sits between every nation. I call it an international accent. It's kind of James Bond, sexy.
Leicester twang out of it.
Completely got the Leicester twang out of it. Completely. And I came here and with a partner at the time, she was from Australia, no family here. And I just decided that I needed to lose some weight. I put a fair few kilos on. If you look at me now, I'm not a small guy. I think that surprises
a lot of people. You've actually got a bit of build. I was thinking of Steve Monaghetti, very skeleton.
That wiry kind of straight up and down kind of guys. I got a bit of booty, man. I'm like the running Beyonce. Anyway, I packed on a few kilos and working in a corporate sales job at the time. Lots of going out and eating and socialising, that kind of stuff, drinking lots of alcohol and all the great things that we love in life and still do. And I just packed on the weight. I was going upwards of 90, 5'9". So it's not stupidly heavy, but it's starting to climb up the ladder a bit. So I thought, right, I'm going to get myself a personal trainer. I was living in St Kilda down here in Victoria at the time, and got the Albert Park Lake there. So I went and saw a personal trainer there twice a week, and you got to do heaps of running. Just to shed the weight. Boom, 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 boom. I hated it. 5 o'clock in the morning, in the dark, cold, rain, feeling sick.
So is it just physical activity, or are you looking at diet and all the other?
No, it's pretty much just physical activity. I mean, looking after yourself in a I guess, healthily. Like eating the right foods and not eating so much crap, whatever that's called. And that's pretty much just how it started. I started doing these runs. I did a 5K fun run. I still have no idea why they call it a fun run. Nothing fun about it at all. You hate every moment of it.
That's right.
I did a 5K fun run and actually found myself to be actually all right at it. I thought I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah.
As much as I said it's not fun. I then decided I'd do a 10K, half marathon. Half marathon goes into the marathon, which is 42.2 kilometers. And then I looked at doing an ultra. It's the ultimate. An ultra marathon.
Ultra marathon.
So that's anything over 42.2 kilometers, which is a traditional marathon.
So 5,500 kilometers would also qualify.
It would cover several ultra marathons in that. So going back to the trails that I run now, these 1,000 Ks and upwards like that, I'm running 2 marathons a day. So that's 85 kilometers.
Right.
And sometimes upwards of that to not 95, almost scraping 100 Ks in a day, which is even I can't sometimes wrap my head around that. It's just so insane.
So talk us through 100 kilometers a day. And how long is this sustainable for? And what are you doing? What time are you waking up? Like you must be like
so many questions.
Well, maybe talk us through the day of running 100 Ks.
Well, yeah, look, the thing is that the 100K distance in terms of events these days is actually quite common. There's a lot of 100K, even 100-mile races, which is 160 kilometers in the mountains, self-supported, lots of events around the world. And even in Australia alone, there's stacks of them.
Yep.
And I think it blows most people's minds to think that there's even people's grandmas that are doing that at the weekend. They're going out for 80K training runs on a Sunday up in the high country of Victoria, and they're probably 78. People go, "What? It's not really like." It's amazing how this kind of sport's taken off, and all sorts of ages and generations and stuff get involved in it. So I want to say that, because I want to say that it's not like I'm special. Lots of different size and sorts of people are doing this, and that's what I'm trying to get out there. Is that I'm not this superhuman guy. I'm not Superman. I don't wear a cape and undies on the outside of my pants just on Friday night sometimes. I'm not this super guy. So to run 100 Ks, to run 50 Ks, to run a marathon, to run at all around the block takes a whole lot of mental discipline.
Yeah, okay, I'll say.
Because the thing is with the body, you can train the body, right? You can train anybody can train for anything, and it's not just applicable to sport. Is that it's applicable to business. If you want to learn a language, anybody can learn a language if you're willing to put the time and the effort into learning it. But mentally, how do we go back to study when we can't be bothered and it all gets too hard? Or how do we stay in business mentally? It's not we can learn the skills, you can get the talent, but how do you stay in the game mentally? And running's exactly that. It's a pure mental game. And as you progress through the distance over time, it becomes easier, like anything, like learning a language, like starting a business, like being in a sales position. You just learn the skills and you sort of develop the talent. That's the easy part, really, is that for me, the physical part's the easy part.
Right. So you're sort of saying that just comes if you get your mental game right.
Well, yeah. How do you get up every day and run around the block? Yeah. That most people struggle with that, right?
Yeah.
And I said, right, for the next month, you got to get up at 5 a.m. and run 1K, which is the length around your block every morning. Yeah. So right for the first 2 days. Yeah. Third day's rubbish, and the week's terrible, and then you start to struggle. So it's totally mental. It's totally mental. And I think it's mental because it's not enjoyable.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's where we struggle as humans, is that there's things we have to do to get ahead. And they're the same things that we don't like doing. And
so how are you doing? So talk us through. So
this has been my whole story. And this is, I guess, why I'm sitting here today with you, Dave, is because, it goes from this guy who started running, did the marathon, did an ultra marathon of 80 Ks or whatever it was back then, suffered like you would not believe, and then decided that he was going to go and run a trail that was super long distance. And for me, it was just like, I just wanted to get out of my sales career. I wanted to develop and grow and be the biggest and best version that I could possibly be of myself. Yeah. And for some reason, running dragged me into that direction. It wasn't thought about. And here's something that will interest a lot of people, is that it is not a passion for me.
Yeah.
So people think I'm pursuing this passion of being a runner. If you have a passion for doing that kind of distance in the wilderness and torturing yourself, you should go and sit down with somebody, because that's just sicko stuff. Like,
what is it? The passion to go beyond?
Well, it's because I wanted to grow and develop. And this is my area of work now. Essentially, is that how do we progress and advance and not just in sport, but in our lives and career. And that's the whole area I kind of research, because it's like, how do we keep going and growing? And that's just fascinating, and it's down to, I guess, us as human beings having the need to grow and develop, and growing and developing and improving makes us happier. Yeah. There's actually some research been done on that.
Yeah, it's a human need, right?
It's a basic human need, Maslow's law, for growth and development. However, to grow and develop, we have to go through pain, have to deal with fears. It's always going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's why we struggle with it. So the very thing that makes us happy is the very thing we're always trying to avoid.
Yeah, it is.
And that's just human nature, right? You're not going to go, I know what I'll do. I'll go and do something that terrifies me to death, or I'll go through this because it's so uncomfortable. Yeah, I think if we can understand what that is and how it benefits us, then we can look at it a little bit differently. I mean, it takes a lot more than that, but we have to understand that we need to do this to grow. Now, when I'm talking about pain and fears and stuff, I mean, there's a difference between fear and danger. Yeah. Jumping out of the plane without a parachute, that's just dangerous. Yeah. That's not overcoming a fear. And smashing yourself in the head with a hammer is pain. We're not talking about that sort of pain. We're talking about pain with growth and developing and taking action, if you like, and pushing ourselves to not necessarily, we need to push ourselves to be outside of our comfort zone, but I really disagree with when people say the magic happens outside of your comfort zone, because the magic doesn't happen there. That's the painful part. So it's after that is the magic part.
Bigger in the range. Is that right, or am I going like just talking?
Yeah. So they're saying if you put a dot on a piece of paper, and that's your comfort zone. Yeah. And then you put a little dot just outside of that. That's your uncomfortable zone, and that's where they say the magic happens. Right. But it doesn't really happen there. The magic doesn't happen there. That's the crap part. Yeah. That's being terrified, out of your depth, uncertain. This is rubbish. It's on the other side of that. It's the magical part. Yeah. So it's getting through that bit is when the magic happens. And only when we do that will we ever grow and develop and be happy and do what we need to do.
So how are you looking back on you sort of said you jumped from marathon to ultra marathon, and then obviously, you're not I think you mentioned before you're working, in a sales environment. I mean, so a lot sort of happened to take you from, I imagine that was sort of a weekend hobby or waking up and working around your job, but now you're sort of full-time in this running and being an ambassador of ultra marathon running. And how does that when did that come into play, the business side of it?
Well, do you know what? I actually thought about the business side before I really decided to go and do the big long adventure. Right. Because it's all very well going off and doing something and going, yeah, I'm going to pack up, I'm going to travel the world, but you come full circle and you come back to zero, essentially. You spend a lot of money doing those kind of things.
It really quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to work harder.
So for me, it was like, well, rather than do the full circle and go out and do something adventurous and get out of the comfort zone and do something enormous and life-changing like it was, I didn't want that to be that and then come back and go back to work.
Yeah.
And because I knew whatever I was going to do like that, it was going to completely change me. You're never going to come back the same person after running 5,500 kilometers. Right. I've been on a mountain range for the best part of 6 months.
So that's what it was. 6 months.
Yeah, I mean it's 5.5 months.
And so, are you on your own, or you first support?
Well, I had to support I was supported by my then partner.
That's halfway through the race.
That's a whole different podcast, isn't it? I was supported by a dragon, actually. No, I was supported by my then partner, and she put me in a camper van. And she used to meet me where the road would intersect the trail. Okay. So that could be every 20 Ks, every 100 Ks, every 300 Ks.
Yeah.
Which means I have to spend a lot of time out there alone and stuff. And I've always joked around by saying, look, if you want a reason to run this stuff, then try spending 6 months in a camper van with your partner.
Yeah.
Because that makes you want to run.
Okay.
You run away. That's
okay. So she's waiting on the side of the road, and it might be
just pop out in different places, and she'd support me along the way, along the route.
Yeah,
and you need that for supplies. Water's always the hardest thing on any of these trails I've done. It's just getting water.
Okay,
food you can go without for quite a while, but water's always a struggle.
What about supplements? So oils, or how are you?
Not really, Dave. I mean, I think most people, when they think of doing something new or even life-changing, they decide that they're going to start eating healthily, or they're going to say, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this amount of sales calls on a Tuesday, or whatever they decide to do. And I think we overcomplicate it and take it to extremes. We go, well, if I'm going to do that, then I need this in place, I need that in place, I need to start doing this, I need to wake up at 5, I need all these kind of different things. And we just make it complicated, which actually makes it harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, it's just like, well, it's running. It's not that hard. It's walking. We just do it a bit quicker, right?
Yeah.
So if I was going to walk from here to the city today, I'd probably just eat a bit more food. I wouldn't decide to start taking, special capsules and, all this kind of stuff. I'd just eat more food. So that's what I did. I just had and I still do, just a normal diet, because the thing is, when you're out there for that long, is that you can't be living on sports nutrition, and you've got to have a normal life.
Yeah.
And it is so, it's just running. You know what I mean? It's like most things. It's like it's just marketing, or it's just sales, or it's just, why do we have to overcomplicate it and think it has to be any harder than someone saying, to make lots of sales, you need to pick up the phone. To run a long way, you just need to run.
What about, it's a 5.5. I'm just like,
going back to the say.
I know, I just can't let it go. But there must be so at night, running 100 Ks a day or 20 Ks a day over a 6 month, whatever the distance was, over that 6 month period, are you sleeping in the caravan, or are you sleeping on the side of the road, or
both, and all of those things. Sometimes you don't sleep, right?
Wow,
it's just look, you try and plan it out, so you've got a bit of a schedule, of course, And the thing is, it's hard because it's not just the running schedule for me and where the team needs to meet me. It's their own schedule as well. They've got to sleep, they've got to eat, they've got to get fuel, they've got to get supplies.
Right.
There's no supplies in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
So they even have to coordinate a plan. So you've got these two plans kind of running side by side.
Yeah.
And as we know, with plans, they never go to plan, right? So ever. So so they would meet me hopefully every day, sometimes every week, just depends. In fact, as my career's gone on in the running side of things, I tend to do more days solo than I ever have done.
Okay.
And that's just from me growing and having an amazing amount of confidence in my abilities and what I'm able to achieve out there. It means that I don't have to rely on other people so much. Saying that, I have a huge team of people that I do rely on.
Yep.
And they rely on me a lot. But for the best part, I like to think I'm pretty bulletproof for my own abilities and what I'm trying to achieve. And therefore, I just don't need anybody else. I can do this.
What sort of stuff have you got, on your person? Is it just the runners and the short and t-shirt, or have you got a bag?
No, you have to take a backpack.
Okay.
Take a backpack. Backpack full of lots of different things, actually. Things with being in the mountains, or I've been in deserts, jungles and volcanoes and all sorts of places, is that
So we'll get back to
the environment changes so quickly. And if you want to put that into your own life and business context, isn't it the same? The environment changes all the time, more so now than ever before.
Yeah.
So I need to be prepared for all those scenarios that could happen. That can be weather, from snow to high winds, rain, extreme sun. If you live in Victoria, that happens every day. The same day, right?
Today as well.
I've got to carry water, of course. I've got to carry food. I've got to take an emergency beacon, snake bite kit, other emergency kind of kit, GPS. I can't even think off the top of my head now. A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of
you've
stuff.
probably got, a good 20, 30 kg.
Yeah. And sometimes there's camping equipment. So if I'm out there for multiple days, there's camping equipment, there's cooking equipment, there's extra food.
Yeah.
And that's when the backpack starts to get enormous. And it's always that way up of going, okay, I'm going to be out for 3 days alone. How much do I need to survive, which will help me move quickly to get out in 3 days? Or do I take more than I need, but then not necessarily be out in 3 days because I'm so heavy it slows me down? There's always that kind of balance in between stuff.
And then you're kind of rationing water, I guess, over the...
Yeah, or finding water. And again, you cannot rely on rivers and stuff that's on maps that says that, this is a water course here, because it's not always the case once you get there.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I've had severe dehydration, really bad.
Yeah. So how long can you last without water? Or I guess
depends on the day. I've been in Israel, middle of the desert, not very long there.
Yeah.
Versus the snowy Alps. Well, that helps because you need snow anyway.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't eat the yellow snow. Yeah, but you can eat snow stuff. But it just depends on the weather as well.
Yeah.
If it's extremely hot, obviously you're consuming way more water than you would if it was a lot cooler.
Wow.
But you've got to keep getting it in, mate.
All right, so you snuck in the word volcano and running around the volcano. So can we just jump back to...
We can jump back to that. And this is where it's going to get even more crazy, because that volcano was erupting. It's in northern Sumatra. The government there had evacuated 80,000 people from the area. It was spitting out lava and rocks, and as I say, people were evacuated. I think some people might have been killed.
So you're on a run,
Well, I wasn't. No, actually, I was in between runs, and what happened was, a sponsor of mine, Source, who make these backpacks, said, "Can you put some promo videos together? I want to get some footage of you using our equipment. We've got different sort of backpacks for different kind of pursuits, if you like." And I said, "Yeah, sure." I've done this. I said, well, just go around the trails where you live, and we'll tee up the proper cameraman, we get the proper footage and stuff. I was like, that's pretty boring. I do it every day.
Yeah.
And who cares about a few trees and gum trees and the old kangaroo, really, when you see them all the time here? I said, there's this volcano erupting in northern Sumatra. I think it would be really cool if I ran across the northern tip of Sumatra. We can start in the city of Medan, which is the largest city in Sumatra. And I said, that would be crazy. And it was crazy. It was crazy. There's traffic, there's cows running across the road. It was awesome, right? So that's in itself is an adventure, right? So we showcased one backpack there. We ran from the city, and I went through the jungle, being chased by orangutans and stuff. And it was really, really raining. So we had these huge rivers that we had to try and cross and stuff. It was pretty cool. And then moved on to the largest volcanic lake in the world, into the lap of the volcanic lake. Yeah. Then ended up at this volcano called Mount Singabung, which I say was massive evacuations. We arrived at this town close to the mountain, and it was literally probably 2 inches of volcanic ash on the ground. And everyone was wearing masks there, and the cars were covered. It was all constantly raining ash from the sky. Jeez. And this volcano was quite a few kilometers away. Yeah. You could feel it rumble. So me and this camera guy went looking for a guide to take us up to the volcano. And everyone was like, nah. And I was like, and I said to the camera guy, man, this is Indonesia. Surely money talks, right? Yeah. We have to start flashing some more cash. And we got this guy. He said, yeah, I'll take you. I can only take you as far as the park entrance because the army's there. Okay. Stopping people from going. And I said, cool. When we get there, we'll see if we can give them some cash.
Yeah, okay. Right. Another negotiation.
So we got this 4-wheel drive, and we drove up there, and even the army had left, gone. whole place was deserted, and the ash was getting thicker and thicker.
Yep.
I got out and started running because I wanted to run around the volcano. And as we got closer, it kept erupting. It erupted about 17 times, I remember, right about that. It was crazy. The cameraman loved it.
Yeah,
I've never done anything like this before. This is crazy. This is nuts. Until it started raining rocks the size of golf balls on the sky.
That are what, red hot or
just rock, coming down, and it's just incredible. So we had to try and hide in these like abandoned farms and stuff where all the villagers had gone, and we got into this little kind of tin shed, and it's got bang, 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 bang on the roof. And there's two guys in there, two local guys, just shaking in the corner. So, man, what's going on? So the guide, he's panicking too, and the guide speaking to him in Indonesian, and he said, "Oh, these guys said you should have been here last night. It was raining rocks the size of footballs from the sky." I was like, far out, really? I said, so why have these guys left? They said, because they're scared of looters and stuff. For them, it's like if they stay and die, then obviously they're dead. But if they go and they lose everything they have, it's the same as being dead. So they might as well just take the gamble and stay here. It's a pretty insane story.
So under a tin shed with
tin shed,
rocks, risking it.
So when they stopped, we'd carry on running. We had to keep going in and out of shelter and capture some amazing footage. And the sponsor said, "Wow, we've never done anything quite like that before." And the backpacks survived. Yeah, that's the moral of the story. Is that the backpacks are unbreakable, bomb-proof. In fact, absolutely
awesome.
But funnily enough, that came from. I always say to people that when we go back to what we said at the start about being uncomfortable and pushing through, fears and unpredictability and painful stuff, is that the only reason I stupidly, if you want to call it that, which it is, decided to go and do that was based on another thing that happened to me when I was in Israel. And at the time, it was day one. I had to run through the desert. I was doing 85 Ks a day there as well. And a guy decided to join me and run this 30K section into the desert, and then he was going to get picked up and I was going to carry on. This beautiful local guy. And we're talking, he's going, "Oh, Richard, you know what you're doing is crazy." I said, "No, it's not crazy, mate." He goes, "No, it's crazy. It's crazy. And you got to do this." It's Israeli, mate. Okay. Come on, you should have known that, right? He sounded like that. Yeah. Maybe he wasn't Israeli. Maybe he was just in Israel from a different country. I don't know, mate. And he goes, "Hey, you crazy?" And I said, "Oh, not really, mate." I said, he goes, No, it is. It's ridiculous, And we had this conversation, and then all of a sudden it was like, woo, boom, and these missiles were firing over the top of us in the air. I could literally see them. Woo, boom, and the valley was shaking. Yeah. And I'm trying to take cover under cactus or whatever, just, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Oh. And he's kind of like, "Richard, what are you doing?" He's all relaxed. I said, "Mate, I'm not sure if you're aware, but your country's at war or something. Like there's missiles flying overhead and boom, another one goes off." He goes, No. This is normal. Welcome to Israel. And what I took from that was that, he was saying to me before, what I did was not normal. Yeah. I'm in this environment where I'm going, this is not normal. And I guess when you look at it, it's kind of like, when you spend enough time in the uncomfortable. So I spent a lot of time running, of course. Yeah. It's normal to me. Yeah. It becomes normal to do that. For him, missiles firing overhead and the desert shaking and valley shaking is just a normal thing. He's chilled and relaxed about it. So when you spend enough time in an uncomfortable environment, it becomes normal. It just becomes super comfortable and normal. So therefore, you have to then take the next step and find out what is more uncomfortable than that. So for me, it was like, well, I've been so uncomfortable. I've dealt with being chased by tanks as well in Israel, and and chased by hyenas there, which is pretty scary. Missiles going overhead, and all this running. It's like, well, just go and run a volcano that's erupting. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about the consequences, because I had to do something that was bigger than ever before, which terrifies me to death. Because like, what's next? What do we do next?
Where do you go from that?
Yeah, so it's always this look for something bigger. And again, if you can push yourself into uncomfortable situations, they become comfortable. Another great example of that is like, if anyone's got kids out there, do you have kids, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got kids, right?
Yeah.
So when I go and spend time with my sister in England, and she's getting the kids ready for school in the morning, and there's just like jam being thrown around, and there's kids running around with the doors hanging out, and screaming, shouting, fighting, and stuff. Absolutely, as you can imagine, right? Absolutely mayhem. And then she takes them to school, and she comes back and said, "That is insane. Like, that is like ridiculous. How do you deal with that?" And she goes, "Oh, it's normal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So for he's just like, what are we talking about? So again, it's like it just becomes normal to you, But for someone who doesn't have children, it's like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah, it's a good contraception.
It freaks you out. It's like, what the?
Just mind this baby for the night and we'll see if that changes your plans for the future. Yeah, it certainly is. But yeah, I that certainly resonate with what you're saying there. Yeah, pushing into pushing the frontier, and then that's becoming normal.
It just becomes normal, right?
It's I guess an extreme example of bombs flying overhead being normal, but
it's extreme, of course it is, and it's ridiculous. And look, I know that most people don't have. Well, I actually probably do have missiles flying overhead, just in arguments at home and stuff. It's the same kind of thing, right? In fact, that's worse.
So I just wanted to sort of maybe ask about how you're doing all these trips and stuff, and how you've linked that into having a successful business, and how you've been able to incorporate your passion or what. Actually, let's not call it. Let me change that now. What would you call it?
What it is, Dave, is that I'm passionate about my own growth and development. That excites me, because I know every time I keep growing and becoming bigger, I do bigger things, and it's exciting. It's record-breaking stuff. I've got all these world records now. Not that it's about the record, but it just kind of comes with it. It's just doing this stuff. So it's that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about just being the best version of me I can be. And what really excites me is the fact, like we said at the start, is that I'm this average-looking dude. Apart from I'm extremely handsome, but but I am. I'm just a normal guy. I'm not this person. When you think of this long distance runner, you're thinking, okay, this guy's gonna be wiry and Steve Monaghan or some
Kenyan. The greyhound to pop out.
Absolutely.
Just glide over.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the Rock comes out, and you go. So that excites me, because it's kind of like, well, it's just human potential, right? Like, we've got so much potential, it's ridiculous, and the only way I'm able to keep getting that is to do the things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah, so you're obviously very humble, and I'm trying to elicit all these habits and tricks. But I mean, I imagine that you'd be going kind of a little bit crazy if you're out on the highway or on these trails, and you're at 4 hours in, and I don't know what sort of mental games are going on there, and what are you doing to keep on track?
When people normally ask that question, Dave, they think that because I can be out there for such a long time every day, solo, and sometimes up to 16 hours a day. It's about the longest I've ran out in the mountains. Is that people assume that I have all this time to think, and you don't.
Right. Okay.
For me, it's about thinking about what I'm doing, and the reason for that is that unlike when you're just running down the road, though this has its hazards as well, is that trail running is like, if you are not thinking about what you're doing, you trip over a rock, you take a wrong turn. You don't want to take a wrong turn when you're running over 5,000 kilometers, right? You don't want to add mileage to your day or your year.
Yeah.
And if you're not constantly in the moment, I guess it is that things go bad, wrong. That's when you forget to eat, and all of a sudden you're really tired. You forget that you need to stop at that river and get some water. You do take a wrong turn. You do trip over a snake. There's all this stuff that goes on. And the biggest lesson I learned with that was when I was actually running across both islands in New Zealand. And again, it was a mountain trail that runs end to end of New Zealand, just over 3,000 Ks. And I was on this beautiful ridge line, and the weather was really, really bad. It was so bad, in fact, I couldn't even see my feet. That's how thick the fog was. And it was howling and sideways wind. Really bad weather, thunder and lightning.
Typical New Zealand.
Yeah, just scary. I mean, I've been warned in this. I've been warned in this about this particular area, but really scary stuff. And you're on the top of the mountain, you just don't. It just gets worse. It doesn't get better the higher up you go. And I started to let my mind wander, and it was about thinking. And it's, I guess, a lesson in some self-confidence as well, because I was like, I'm not sure if I'm up to this. I'm not sure if I'm good in this environment. I have the right equipment, but I'm not sure if I know how to use it here. Damn, this is really scary. Oh, no, what am I going to do next? Damn, I wish I wasn't here. In fact, I wish I was back home right now on the couch with a cup of tea, maybe a glass of wine. In fact, I'd even take a cuddle from my mum right now. And this is the sort of stuff that's going through my head. And as quick as that was happening in my head, it was bang, and I tumbled. I remember literally seeing my life flash before my eyes. And I came to a sudden stop. I was lying there on my back, just staring up into this thick fog, just greyness. I was just silent for ages. I didn't even feel the cold or the wet that I was anymore. I didn't feel any fear anymore. And I was lying there going, is this it? I was expecting this big hand to come out of the clouds and say, welcome, Then I realised that would never happen because I'm not that nice guy. And slowly I tried to get myself up, and I realised that my backpack was wedged between these two rocks. I was like, oh, damn. So trying to pull myself free. And as I was doing that, my legs started swinging from underneath me, and I was actually on the edge of a cliff.
Oh.
And the only thing that saved me were these two rocks that just magically hooked into my backpack. So I managed to get myself free gingerly and climb back up to the top of this kind of mountain ridgeline and realised I tumbled 80 metres.
Jeez.
Now, 80 metres is a long way. That's a long way to tumble, pretty much vertically as well. Not really have a scrape on my body and be luckily saved by two rocks before I fell off the edge of a cliff. And why? Because I wasn't in the moment. I wasn't thinking about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And this is what people do, is that they don't have attention on stuff and focus on stuff, so that therefore they go off on the wrong path.
Yeah.
And we do this all the time. You're doing one thing at work, and then the next thing you're going, hang on, it's the end of the day, and I'm over here somewhere doing something completely different.
Well, that's right.
I never got done what I wanted. Yeah. And you've just got to rid those distractions, because they do send you off course.
Yeah.
Again, you're not going to tumble down a mountain, but you're going to go off in the wrong direction, waste time down over there.
Yeah.
And you've really got to be just constantly in the moment. And that's just a beautiful thing as well.
Yep.
Being in the moment.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, as soon as you take your attention off something else will grab it.
Yeah.
For me, it was just a tumble, almost a death-defying.
Well, that would have brought you back to
yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So from there, it's a big lesson for me. Like, you've just got to keep your attention on what you're doing. And the cool thing about that also is that I tend to move a lot more quickly. Time disappears.
Yeah.
And you always hear about those people that go out for a run and they're thinking about something. They go for a run, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've done 5K already.
Yeah, right.
Not very often, mind you, but it happens. You get into that kind of sense of flow. I think they call it. It's
I've heard about this.
Yeah, you're in the flow. You're kind of in that zone. Your concentration is on that one thing, and you're doing it well, and it becomes quite easy when you can do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about just trying to get into that, stay focused, because as soon as I'm not, bad things happen.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So, Rich, just thinking back to when you're in your sales job or at another time earlier in your life, what advice would you give to yourself?
I actually don't think I would.
Okay.
I don't think I give myself any advice. And the reason I say that is because I wouldn't be where I am right now if I changed anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you can't go back in time and change. So here's some advice. You should go and do this, because that means I'd be in a completely different place. And it could be worse. Could be better, who knows? But I wouldn't be who I am right now, and I'm pretty proud of who I am right now. I'm in a good space. I'm happy with what I've done. There was an interview a few years ago that Andrew Denton did with a homeless guy from America, and this homeless guy was apparently he was a drug addict, an alcoholic, just real dropout, if you like. And he made himself clean, and that was kind of why Andrew Denton was interviewing him. Oh, great, tell us about the turnaround. And Andrew asked him the same question. What would you tell you for myself? And he said the same thing. But what I took from that was that he said the reason, he said, I wouldn't change a thing. All I'd say is keep going. So if I had to say something, I'd say keep going. Because if you change it, then you just change this conversation we're having right now. It wouldn't be happening, would it?
Yeah, and it's kind of a good mantra to have when you're doing ultra marathons.
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah. Just keep going. See what happens.
Oh, great. Okay, so just a couple of the Mentalist standard sort of questions. Was there a quote or a couple of words that sort of ring through your head when you're running around?
Do you know where I get a lot of inspirational, not necessarily quotes or lines from, is rap music.
Rap music?
Yeah, rap music. And the reason, and I'm not that I'm a massive rap fan necessarily, but I do like some of the quirky kind of lines that they come up with, like the whole Jay-Z one. It's like, I'm not a businessman, I'm my businessman. It's just kind of so clever, right? Yeah. I'm not a businessman, I'm my businessman. So, and something I heard recently was just on a track for something like, the time is now. It's perfect. Yeah. Because the time is now for everything, if that's what I said. For everything. So it is. It's now is always the best time, because it's never really a good time. So it always has to be the best time. Yeah. And often I had a friend recently who was buying a house, and he said, "Oh, it's not a good time to buy a house right now." I said, "Mate, it's never a good time to borrow money from the bank ever, no matter who you are. So the time is now."
Yeah. Yeah, and it's well, the best time to buy a property was yesterday or 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, certainly here in Melbourne. So just another mentalist question. Is there a book that you've read that you'd recommend that people pick up and have a read of?
I could be really corny and just say the Bible, but
Okay.
no, I won't, because even though I've not read it. I think if you're going to talk books, about diary. I think a diary is important.
Diary, okay.
And I say a diary, not that you read a diary necessarily, and I'm not talking like a journal kind of diary, though that's probably a good idea too. I'm just thinking about, I think if you're thinking of a book, and I'm just thinking, it comes to mind is a diary. I think a diary is so important for many reasons, because obviously you need to schedule your day in there.
Yeah.
But I reckon a diary keeps you honest. If you open up a diary and you can see all the blank spaces in it, which then you go, well, I'm complaining I haven't got time. Yeah, I've got all this white space on my calendar.
Yeah.
Something you sometimes struggle to do on a computer. If I think about my running manual, the mileage I'm doing each day, and if I'm ticking off the points I need to meet the team at, all that kind of stuff, and I open up and look at that, and it's got big gaps in it, it's like, what was I doing then?
So you've got a physical diary you carry around when you're doing your run?
Yeah, no, not necessarily when I'm running, post-run.
Okay.
And obviously a lot of things done digitally these days, so I've got a watch and my GPS that just uploads all the data.
Oh, wow. Okay,
and I can print that off on sheets and see runs, the weather, how I was feeling, everything you can imagine of that. So it's not quite answering your question. I don't really have a book. Do picture books count?
Yeah.
Pop-up book? How can I say? But I think when I think of a book, I just think of a diary, a bam, and I go, and a diary just keeps you honest. You open it, you can go, it's empty. Here, and here, and here, and here.
Yeah.
So there's stuff I need to do. And obviously it keeps you scheduled. You can write quotes in there. You can write information in there.
Yeah.
If thoughts come in your mind when you're on the train, whatever, you can drop something down in there. Granted, you can use your phone as well for that. But I think something about a physical book when you put in that kind of information in that kind of keeps you more honest.
Yeah.
And it's tangible. You can hold it.
Yeah.
You can feel it. And it's almost like when you load up your diary, you feel the weight in it.
Yeah, well, it's...
You know what I mean? No, it's a psychological thing. But I know when I load up my calendar, it's almost like I can feel the weight in that.
Yeah.
A little bit of ink. It's not going to make a difference, right? But it just feels heavier. So it's like, this is my Bible.
So because you mentioned before that you sort of carry your not journal or visit your diary you carry around everywhere.
Pretty much. I've got my diary on the go all the time.
Yeah.
I like to schedule stuff in and try stuff out.
Yeah.
Ideas that come to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets lost in the phone. Because the phone is the whole world. And it's hard to look at the whole world on a screen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not realistic. It gets lost in there, I think. But when you have something physical, it's just like it's there in front of you. You can touch it. It's real.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Well, just wanted to say thanks for coming on the show today and sharing the stories about running. And I probably got a bit carried away and asked you you're just trying things like volcanoes and 5,500 K. So it sparked my interest.
I know. We didn't even go crocodiles. We didn't even do fun with the shotgun. Stuck a shotgun in my mouth. Didn't do any of that stuff, mate.
Oh wow! Okay.
Damn, part 2,
series 2. Yeah. But do you want to? So people are out there listening to your story and listening to this podcast. How and who does that work? Yeah, or who should contact you, and what would they be contacting?
Look, I do a whole bunch, but my work, apart from the running stuff, and I think you have to look at my career for in two parts. There's adventure. There's going out and doing runs, and there's adventure stuff, right? And that's kind of inspiring, and that's cool. And then there's the other side where I've done a massive amount of research on how I've managed to do what I've done. Because I know it's not physical. I know it's all mental. And it's like, so I sat down, literally, I took a year out of my life, educational year, and I sat down with a whole bunch of psychological experts across the country and New Zealand, from sports psychology, clinical people, what else did I do? Personality experts, you name it, I did it. I even did past life regression therapy. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's when you apparently go back into the life before the life you had today.
Oh, okay.
I was a horse.
Wow, great.
I was a stallion.
That's why you're on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of all ties it right. So I went 360. I did a heap of research because I wanted to figure out how this everyday guy, which I am, is managed to do what I've done. And that's why I spend a lot of my time now. I work with Monash University. I still work with some of the brightest psychologists this country offers.
Yeah. And
this whole idea of how do we keep pushing forward. And it's important for me because I feel that I have a lot in common with people, because when I'm doing these things and these challenges come up with missiles and volcanoes and all the stuff we missed out today, all these challenges come up. They happen when I'm already physically and mentally tired. In fact, not tired, exhausted, like most of us are. We're hammered with these things when we're already tired.
Yeah.
Another thing slaps on your desk, another challenge, another problem. Hang on, here's a bill. It's like, oh God, how'd you get through that stuff? And that fascinates me. So that's where I spend all of my time. And that makes me go and speak on a lot of different stages. I've not only got a really inspiring and kind of entertaining story, but it's backed up by, some stuff that I've done. I've sat down in the lab and I've had my brain picked apart, and, I've gone through some tough times with that. It's upset me. It's dragged me through some spiky bushes and stuff to get all this information out of me. But it's put me in a place now where I think I'm pretty unique, and I can offer this inspirational and entertaining story with some actually backed up real research.
Yeah.
So you can find me on a stage anywhere. And then on the flip side of that, also, I did a lot of that puts me in to work with a lot of sales teams, because sales teams have a lot of mental challenges. It can be any kind of team, really, but sales for me is my background. And for some reason, I always get asked to go and work with sales teams.
Yeah.
How we get people advancing forward, progressing, and pushing towards the end result. And that's not just motivation, it's a whole bunch of stuff that comes into that. There's challenges and setbacks and being resilient and all those kind of things. And I'm just teaching what I've done out in the wilderness in an extreme environment, and we bring that into an office environment. And so this is how you two can hopefully get through those things.
Yeah, use the same sort of concepts.
So you can be nuts too.
But it's just a little bit more interesting and a bit more palatable to listen to.
Well, it is, right? Because, and this is the thing. And, because it'd be easy for me to say I was the highest selling real estate agent in Australia and then go around and talk about that and how I've got the big Rolex and the big flash car, right? That's easy, and that's kind of inspiring and stuff, but that happens all the time out there.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to become from a fresh kind of perspective. And a lot of other athletes, if I can call myself that, and adventurers, if I can call myself that, those people that I've listened to and I've been on these stages where I've shared stages with them, often just tell a story about their adventure or just tell the sports story with some, I guess, kind of cliche things like, you got to have big dreams and you got to believe in yourself. But what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's going to dream. Everyone believes in themselves to an extent, like everyone can dream. Everyone's got a passion and stuff. So that's not the problem. Problem is, we got to do the stuff we don't want to do, right?
That's right.
To get what we want to have.
We know what we have to do.
Yeah. So that's where I come in. So you can find me. Just type in Richard Bowles, not Bowles.
Yeah, sorry
remember?
Good stuff.
It'd be a good way for people to remember me. Yeah, actually, he did talk a lot of crap, so it could be bad. Richard Bowles, BOWLES.com.au is my site. You'll find a bunch of stuff there, and hit me up on any social from Runpreneur. I call myself Runpreneur across social.
That's
social media.
Okay, that was I think how I came to find you through a referral. Which we'll leave that.
Why you can't leave it like that? Why would you leave it like that? It sounds dodgy. Yeah, there was this club. Let's just say it had a few fireman's poles on it. No, it wasn't.
So I was in Bali, as all good things, all good stories do start in Bali. And there's a full restaurant, couldn't get a seat, and ended up sitting down next to a gentleman, Wayne McMurdo, who's getting a good plug.
Okay.
And then Wayne got onto you, who didn't know you, and then I was going to be there, but I was out of town. And met you after an event, and then said, "Hey, you should go on the show." And then that's sort of how that sort of.
So you met me in a bar in Bali. I met her in a bar on South Bank.
Yeah. So
this guy's a bit creepy.
So shout out to Wayne. I hope you're doing well. Anyway, but thanks for coming on today. I'll link to your site on the mentalist.com.au.
Pleasure.
Yeah, also you'll be able to find the show notes there. And for all listening in, I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you again next week. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, guys.
Just before we bid ourselves adieu, I trust you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast or simply find out about how you can get involved and further support the cause, drop me a note, as I'd love to hear from you. You can find my details at mentorlist.com.au/about. Otherwise, I will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Mentor List with your host, David Lewis. If you like what you're hearing on The Mentor List, the best way to support the show is to take just a few seconds to leave a rating and comment over on iTunes. You can also find further information about this show and links to further episodes at www.mentorlist.com.au. Until next time, this is The Mentor List.